Alright, what's going on everyone? I'm back here again with another video, and this one's going to be on 5 great debut punk rock albums, some of the best that I could think of. I put 5 on here because, you know, it was hard to really think of many more than 5 because a lot of punk bands really don't have the best debut albums compared to a lot of their other albums, but I thought I'd make one here, comprise one up here, because, you know, I don't think many of these kinds of videos on punk debuts have really been done, so I decided I'd do one of my own, so there you go. And also, you know, let me know what your guys' favorite punk rock debut albums are, and I'll definitely check them out. Especially if I haven't heard of it, I'll definitely check it out because I'm always up for, you know, listening to new music that fans recommend me and stuff. So, you know, put an album down in the description or whatever, and I'll go and check it out. So yeah. And first one is going to be one that's kind of unexpected, you know, because this isn't really a band that's as known as a lot of the other bands I put on this playlist. Or not this playlist, I mean, sorry, this playlist. I meant this list. But this album is called Treatment 5, and it's by a band called Osker. Now, this one, like, you listen to this album, and it's like, this is a band who really, you know, could have gone somewhere if they didn't break up within the first couple of years of their formation, you know, because they put out this album, and then another album called Idol Will Kill, and Idol Will Kill is a little bit different than this one. This one feels a little bit more like raw and aggressive than Idol Will Kill does. Idol Will Kill is a bit more emotional than this one is. But, you know, this one I think wasn't bad for like a raw kind of angsty punk record, you know what I mean? Because there's so many songs, you know, they're either aggressive or, you know, talking about the struggles of being an adult and everything, which, you know, I could definitely relate to. You know, especially, well, and a lot of people can around, you know, ages like 18, you're kind of still getting used to being an adult and everything. And that's when around the time when I think I first heard this record, and I'm like, man, you know, this isn't bad actually. I first heard Idol Will Kill, but I listened to this one and I'm like, man, this one isn't bad either, honestly. They both have a different kind of mood to them. But this one, it reminds me of a lot of, like, you know, Nimrod era Green Day, sort of, but more like raw and aggressive. I mean, not necessarily like Nimrod era Green Day, but like, you know, Insomniac, more like, actually, I'd say it's probably more like Insomniac than Nimrod, considering the rawness to it and, you know, aggression to the record, which Insomniac does have that a bit more than Nimrod does. And I first discovered these guys actually through Punk-O-Rama. It was Punk-O-Rama 6 is actually the one I listened to where I first discovered this band and heard the song Strangled and then got into it more. They had a song called Alright, like a demo of it, which was, I think it was on Punk-O-Rama 3, I believe. And, you know, this one is also a song off of the album Treatment 5, and I listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, man, there's so many good songs on this album. You know, I Cannot, Useless, Dying, you had Ballad of a Traitor, there's so many just absolute bangers on this, Someday, Asshole, I mean, just so many great ones, you know. Like, and these songs are all great for almost like different reasons, a lot of them, and, you know, the song Ballad of a Traitor kind of reminds me of Green Day's Platypus song, by the way, because, you know, it's talking about someone named Nick Turner, I believe, or something like that. I'm not sure exactly who this is. They didn't really talk about this one too much because they're really a short-lived band and kind of underground, but, you know, this one, I think, you think of a person you don't like, and this song you can definitely relate to, you know. And this is one I actually still go back to on, you know, a somewhat regular basis, not all the time, but I do go back to this one quite a bit compared to a lot of other punk debuts for sure. And second one here is How to Clean Everything by Propagandhi. Now, this one was released around like 93, which I believe was around the time Fat Records was first formed and everything. And this was like one of the first records put out on the label, I believe, and it was a banger. Man, this album is great for so many different reasons. The riffing, you know, the beats, the lyrical content, the messages it pervades and or sends in a lot of these songs, you know what I mean? Like the Anti-Manifesto, which is like the perfect song to describe what type of a band they are, really. You know what I mean? And, you know, the message they're trying to convey to people. And some of these songs kind of go into, you know, certain specific topics a bit more, but Anti-Manifesto is like the perfect song to really listen to when you first listen to Propagandhi, and one I definitely recommend. And there's so many others on this album that are great too. Hate, Myth, Muscle, and Etiquette. And they even had, you know, a few funny songs on here, like This Might Be Satire. and Ska Sucks. Those songs I feel like are meant to be more humorous for sure. This might be satire, of course, kind of in the name. It says, you know, it's kind of a more humorous song. But man, there's so many great songs in this one I come back to so many times. And the guitar in this album, the lead guitar, is just absolutely great. Like I said, the riffs in this album are phenomenal, and definitely some of the best riffs, I think, in all of punk rock, honestly. And, you know, they had another vocalist after this who also did a lot of the songs, but I love, you know, the attitude of the vocals in this one as well. Even if, you know, you know, it's not exactly like, he's not an opera singer or anything like that, but I mean, it's a punk band, so of course it's not going to be, but the attitude to it just fits perfectly in with these songs, dude. Like, this album is literally probably like a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm not even kidding. This album is fucking awesome. You know, Head, Chest, or Foot, you know, like I said, Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette, Anti-Manifesto. So many great songs in this album I come back to all the time. And this is one I definitely recommend listening to if, like, you're trying to take a deeper dive into punk rock as a whole. And the third one here is All Killer, No Filler by Sum 41. Now, some people might count their Half Hour of Power EP as like their first album, I guess. I mean, it's almost the length of like an album, but you know, I count this as the first album actually, because you know, this is when Sum 41, you know, really captured the sound they were going for those couple of years. They changed it a bit with Does This Look Infected, but this one definitely kind of showed they have so much potential for sure, you know what I mean? And you know, they had, of course, the hit singles like In Too Deep and Fat Lip, but I mean, Fat Lip really represents who this band is so much, honestly, and it was the perfect song to make as the first single. I'm so glad, you know, they fought to make this one the first single, even though In Too Deep is kind of a little bit more of a known song than, you know, Fat Lip is. But there's so many great songs in this album, too. I mean, Nothing on My Back, you got Rhythms, Summer. There's a lot of good songs in this album that are quite catchy. And, you know, fun to play on guitar and everything, that are kind of simple at the same time, but fun to play. But still, I really feel like Sum 41 put their feet in the ground with this record and, you know, really showed what kind of a band they really are with this one. You know what I mean? Especially with the song Fat Lip in particular. And these guys are also a band I saw live, and you know, I actually had a little bit of a conversation with Steve, their original drummer, actually in a recent comment exchange about, you know, a few tracks that actually are bonus tracks, and this is totally off topic from this album, but, you know, I actually talked about Moron and Subject to Change, which are a couple of bonus tracks, you know, on the Chuck record, and I kind of made him aware of Moron along with a few other people. He responded to my comment along with a few other people's recommending, you know, him play Moron in one of his videos because he played Subject to Change, and, you know, I recommended that one to him. There's a few others I want to recommend from the Underclass Hero record, which, you know, the bonus tracks to that record, which are probably better than almost all the songs on that record, in my opinion. I might recommend those to him as well. But yeah, this album right here, All Killer, No Filler, really, like I said, showed that Sum 41 had their feet in the ground as of, you know, their sound and everything. And they kind of changed it up, of course, you know, later on. But even that, they did pretty well for the most part, you know, especially in, you know, this era of the band, you know, like 2000s, you know what I mean? And fourth one here is Milo Goes to College by Descendents. And you know what, I was really taking a deeper dive into punk rock as a whole. This is one of the albums I found and picked up on because, you know, I was watching all sorts of like documentaries and everything, and Descendents were a band that came up quite often, so I decided to check them out and listen to Milo Goes to College as a whole, and I'm like, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff about this, you know. It's melodic at points, it's aggressive at points, you know. This album really represented, you know, what punk was starting to become, you know, later on in the later years, but, you know, done a bit early on and influenced quite a few other bands to do similar things. You know, there's a lot of short songs on this record. M16's a short one. I'm Not a Loser is not even like 2 minutes. And there's quite a few others that are not even in the 2 minute mark. There's a few that pass that, but, you know, a lot of these songs are under 2 minutes. but they're still really good at the same time on songs I go back to quite often for short songs, you know what I mean? And honestly, this is still the best Descendents record of all time, I think. You know, when they went a little bit more melodic, you know, it was alright, but this Descendents, this era of Descendents, is my absolute favorite. Milo Goes to College is awesome. It's a 10 out of 10 record all the way through. And I definitely recommend it for people trying to get into punk rock more. And last one we got on this list is Pennywise, is self-titled. Now man, this one is a riff haven. It's loud, fast, energetic, aggressive, and you know, if you're into metal too and looking to get into punk rock more, I recommend Pennywise, because you know, I recommended these guys to one of my other friends who's, you know, more of a metal guy than I am. I mean, I listen to metal, but this guy's top genre is metal. I mean, it's probably second for me next to punk, but you know, he's into metal more, and he got into Pennywise actually because they have a lot of almost metal-like riffs, but not quite, you know, especially with like the vocals. It's definitely a more punk type of stuff, almost like hardcore in a way, you know. And Pennywise and The Offspring kind of had a similar sound going on during the time, but you know, Pennywise of course had their own unique sound. You know, their vocals were almost more of like, you know, a hardcore type of vocals thing, and The Offspring, some of them were a bit more melodic at times than Pennywise, but Pennywise had all that right energy in with this album. I mean, Come Out Fighting, Side 1, Open Door, and you had the most known Pennywise song, I believe, still to this day, which is Bro Him, which is dedicated to their former bandmate before this song released, and this album released, really. And, you know, it was a good song to dedicate to him, and it caught on, actually, you know, because there was lots of people that used this and all sorts of different videos they made during the time that, you know, they're trying to get sponsored by. And, you know, Pennywise was a band a lot of people went to, like skateboarders and everything, and people like that, and surfers used to go to, use songs from them, you know, and their videos to, you know, make it more interesting, of course, because, you know, in sponsored videos, you kind of want to have a good soundtrack sometimes. And, you know, they recorded these, put the song in the background, and some of them actually caught on, and that brought this album and this song, especially in particular, more attention. And honestly, Pennywise is still a pretty good band, honestly. They haven't really released much bad stuff, I don't think. This record was definitely the most like raw record as a production though, and it was an early one on Epitaph for sure too, actually, because this is before, you know, Smashed by The Offspring came out. But this one definitely, you know, set the ground for what punk was becoming in the 90s a lot more too as well, and inspired a lot of other bands to have like a similar sound. They took a bit of it for like Bad Religion, but made it more like riffy, aggressive, you know, and everything, because Bad Religion was a bit more melodic than Pennywise was. You know, Pennywise was like the more aggressive version of Bad Religion, sort of, in a lot of ways. But honestly, yeah, they have so many great songs on this record, and so many others too. About Time is another great one, Unknown Road, and Straight Ahead's a great record too, you know, I recommend that one as well. But this one, man, this is definitely one of my favorite records by them, and there's, you know, it's kind of hard to decide between, you know, which one of these is my favorite, but you know, Self-Titled is definitely up there at the top, you know what I mean? It's like between that and About Time. You know, those two records are just so great, you know. The riffs, the lyrics, the message to it, the energy, just, you know, almost everything about these records is fucking awesome. And Pennywise was another band that was often featured in Punk-O-Rama, which I'm glad for, because they definitely deserve it, because they got so many great songs and so much great material that they've released. And I definitely recommend checking them out, you know, if you're trying to take a deeper dive into punk, just like, you know, the other albums I mentioned on here. So, yeah, that is it for the 5 best punk debuts I can think of. So let me know if, you know, like I said, if you guys have any albums you want me to listen to, debuts that you think are awesome by some great bands, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.